fake part of us as a people. If you really want to give, yes, you can give. But I can bet you there are many people on hospital beds today. There are many people who need help in schools. There are many people who need help with all other things. Whilst it is okay to give to this woman, I'm telling people, revise your conscience. There might
Do
be
we have to wait for anybody to go into trouble before we want to show that we are capable of helping? Before we want to, for publicity?
That is the point. That is the point, that something unfortunate happened. Nobody expected it to happen. I have no problem if people went and gave a donation because she has got 200 CDs and then people can give. But let this not be the center, the theme of the thing. What did happen? And if it turns out that the bank or even the lady and the police, let the blame and the punishment be even. If we go down this route and punish the police as much as possible and leave the causative, these things, I am sure we will not solve the problem. Otherwise, what stops anybody else from going in front of a bank when they say it's closed, punch the policeman in the face, and then expect a reaction so that you also get something? I'm not saying, that's overstretching it.
Yes, of course. Which can happen. There are people writing on social media.
I think
going to banks misbehaving.
But you see, I have filed a question in Parliament, and I'm sure my colleague, the Honourable Minister of Interior, will come to answer that question. We need to find out whether there's any hint of reduction in the professionalism of the police. The question I filed is regard to why the policemen were returned from peacekeeping duty for alleged sexual misconduct. And the frequency of police getting into confusion with the public and their reaction and overreaction is becoming an issue. Should we, is there any evidence that we are getting a breakdown of maybe professionalism or something? If not, is it because the public is becoming a bit impatient towards the police? So I think we need to do a lot about it. I support the call of the president saying he supports the punishment of the policewoman, but I think that is a bit one-sided. I expect the president to call for full investigation, and I insist, if it found out that the lady or the bank also misconducted themselves, let us know about it to set as an example. If there's any punishment, we take that one as well.
Honorable Reverend John Intimfojo, let me pick you on that. The president has added his voice, everything that happened in the bank, and how it's been panned out so far.
Yeah, thank you once again, and a good morning to our cherished viewers. A good morning to my colleague, Honorable Abuja, and of course, to commiserate with the families of the venerable and the late President of the Republic, President John Evans Atta Mills. And this man has proven, indeed, that has been one of the most selfless and very honest and very gentle statesmen that Ghana has produced. And we would have all wished that on the occasion of his birthday, he would have been around and we all would have, celebrated with him and turned to him to even remind him of the great things and sacrifices and contributions that he has offered to Mother Ghana in various facets of his public service, from academia to governance, but unfortunately, as the Lord will have it, he's resting peacefully in the bosom of the Lord, and I believe that he must be enjoying over there. And so, for the legacies he left behind, we salute him, and the whole of Ghana is proud of his legacies that he left behind. So, happy birthday, posthumous, to President John Evans Atta Mills. And also to remind ourselves that yet again another Emancipation Festival is around. It is not a festival that is only isolated to or specific to the good people of Asin, but it's a national, it's even a diasporan festival where we take occasion to remember certain acts that of injustices that had occurred, the transatlantic slave trade, and how some very talented and skilled and very honest people from our soil were sold, sadly, in a very humane process to foreign lands, and all the struggles they went through, and how events turned, and some of them trying to trace back their roots back home. It's an occasion for us to all reflect that there was a dispensation where the society was could have actually conducted, themselves better, and draw lessons going forward. But even more significant is the tourism potential of emancipation that is annually held in Asen Manso. And I would want us to look beyond even Asen Manso to develop all the slave monuments that we can find in Asen Enclave, even right through to the Middle Belt, to Salaga, and every part of Ghana that hold some very significant monuments which we can trace to remember. However, sadly, it's something that happened that we could, we could leverage on some tourism potential, develop some monuments, and ensure that some revenue can actually be taken from that. Because there are a lot of people in the diaspora who would wish to come, not just for a day, during emancipation, to gather at a Deba and then lament and commiserate of their ancestors, but we want to see the processes, and they would want to see actually certain structures done and beautifully crafted in place to signify how the slaves were sold, how the trading was done, how they were bathed, how they were even transported into the ships and eventually embarked on their final journey from the castle. So I am appealing that all stakeholders get engaged in assisting the good people of Asen. We are willing to partner with all stakeholders, the Ministry of Tourism, the Tourism Development Company, the National Tourism Authority, and even corporate Ghana, so that we can actually develop an integrated slave monument across the country, very significant routes in Asen Manso going forward. So it's coming off on 1st of August, and your good self, you're invited, Honorable, you're invited, and our cherished viewers, come and experience the hospitality of Asen, and we are believing God for a very good and productive festival. It's rather sad that we would have to report a case involving a man, let me even touch on the man aspect, brutalizing a female. And so sad that without regard to the fact that she was even carrying a baby, and all the dangers to the baby was grossly disregarded. And I would have thought that if this man was willing, to actually exercise his strength and his fist, he should have looked for somebody of equal strength. But any time that a man would have to raise their hands at a woman, is a manifestation of inherent weakness. Any man that lets up their hands against a woman is a manifestation of weakness and insecurity. Because otherwise, how would you, a weaker vessel, why would you want to, attack, even if it was provoked? In this case, I haven't seen, sufficient evidence even to conclude that there was some form of provocation. And I believe that there are some procedures and strict protocols that are well defined for the police to handle matters of this nature. And looking at the video, my judgment was that she was already on the premises. She wasn't attempting to enter the premises. She was already in a banking hall. That is how I observed. And if she had already entered the banking hall, and the excuse was that the bank had closed, for which they needed her to vacate, she was already on the premises. And for whatever engagement, I believe that customer service skills, if had been improved, she would have found a customer service executive who would have spoken to her, understood her problem, and tried to empathize with her and offered her some assurance. All she needed was an assurance that her deposit was indeed safe. And if she wasn't even going to be given or disbursed, she wasn't going to be paid that withdrawal she sought to make, and somebody has spoken well with her, and she had got that assurance, I believe that could have, abated her anxiety, and she could have left. But on the other hand, if the core of the problem had to do with how distressed her financial situation at the time was, for which she couldn't leave the bank without funds, and that strictly needed funds to be able to get by with a child and the family, I would have thought that the bank should have listened, because there are banking ethics that your good self, you are an expert in there. And there are a number of factors that one can lament. But it all comes to the professionalism, one, of the banking sector, and two, of the Ghana Police Service. In this case, the Ghana Police Service has taken action, the leadership has taken action, and the President of the Republic, His Excellency President Akufo-Addo, has stated his support for any sanction that is meted out to the police officer who perpetrated that gory act, and we would want to see a conclusion of the steps that are taken. Oftentimes, when some of these acts of unprofessionalism and deviation from the stated protocols of the Ghana Police Service occur, the Ghana Police Service would issue a statement in respect of actions taken. But Ghanaians are looking further to some more engagements, with the media. Some press conference will have to be called, and then the public will have the opportunity to ask questions beyond the stated, actions that have been given. That also goes to, increase the confidence that the public have in the steps that are taken in addressing issues, because this may not be taken in isolation. It could be a reflection of standards, which we all have to, without any political coloration, a societal challenge. I mean, that we all have to be concerned about, because we cannot have a police officer that has gone through training and goes through retraining, conduct themselves in a manner that was seen. And again, right. But my concern with a bank, I cannot generalize this to say that Midland was complicit, but in respect of that particular branch, people were looking on. Somebody was actually
those people have been suspended.
Yes, somebody was filming, and so I'm glad when I heard subsequently that the staff that were on duty on that particular shift, some action, disciplinary action, has been taken against them, and for which I would want us to further, engage on ensuring that we have these things corrected. And I must state that this may not be the only issue that may have occurred in a bank or may have occurred with involving a misconduct of a policeman. However, there are a number of some of these abuses that occur in our corners, in our streets, in various villages and cities that go unreported, simply because perhaps nobody was there to video it at a point. Now, this has come to the fore because somebody was videoing. What about the many other cases that were not, evidenced in video? So it's an opportunity for victims who have suffered such abuses to come up, to speak up, to seek justice. And I would want to support, the view of Honorable Abuja that we may not have to wait for some of these isolated, unfortunate cases
before we support them.
Populist actions are taken. We must recognize that indeed we have a weak social system, and which we must pay attention to and fix. Because if this woman, whether single mother or married, had a very secured financial welfare system, she wouldn't have to be vulnerable to this attack, all because of 270 cities. So yes, this is. I acknowledge, just to land quickly, I commend the philanthropists and the agencies and the institutions that have come to the support of the woman. Yes, I support them. I commend them. But again, beyond that, beyond this ad hoc gesture, we would have to think of the broader societal welfare challenges and a system that can comprehensively address it.
Right. This is coming in from Zakun, the news editor of the Business Finder. He's supporting the calls, but also saying that the actions of, like you are saying, the actions of 5 people in the bank should not cost the whole bank, as some people are calling for. And he writes, investors worked hard to establish Midland Savings and Loans Company. They have invested heavily. They employed over 700 people to work in various branches nationwide. 5 workers at one branch in Accra looked on while a trigger-happy errant police officer assaults a woman carrying a baby. Prosecute the police officer. Prosecute the 5 staff for aiding and abetment of crime. Calling for a boycott of Midland Savings and Loans is unreasonable because the crime was not committed by the shareholders. A boycott that will lead to collapse will only affect the country negatively, as all employees will lose their jobs and the hard work of the investors will go down the drain. All over the work, even when shareholders engage in wrongdoing, they are dealt with by the laws of the land. We must punish people who committed the crime and allow the company to learn its lessons and move to serve us better. Elvis Zakun, news editor, Business Finder.
Well, I think he's made I'm surprised everybody is ending it at, look, let's face it. Is the policeman just that mad to just pounce on somebody. I'm not in any way condoning his action. I'm saying that there's a chance, irrespective of the provocation, I will not condone his reaction. I'm saying that there's a chance something took place to trigger his unprofessional behavior. So if we say punish the police and punish the people, in one vein, we are saying that, like my colleague said, we are only able to understand the scale of the attack on video because somebody filmed it. Yet we are punishing the same people. We have had instances of videos, of pictures. I mean, if we want to start listing them, from Flagstaff House through his through Parliament, through everything, where people
is that where you are taking
where people have assaulted police or police have assaulted other people. Are we saying that henceforth that becomes a crime to be dealt with? I mean, let's be careful here. If we want to do an investigation into this, I'm saying that at all costs,
let's do it on both sides.
Exactly, and I agree with him when he says that, you see, this country, we are quick to do certain things. Look, the shareholders, the investors, probably the investor includes the lady who has been assaulted, put their money there for a reason. One incident cannot be the justification to call for a close down. I've seen people go, Bank of Ghana should do this. I mean, what we, what are we, who are we? I mean, like he said, knee-jerk reaction because of one instance, let's do this. I've always been joking that if it were to be a Ghanaian in some days that were to invent electricity, would have given up. Because once you get one electrical shock, you say, don't touch it. It cannot be like that. There was an instance there. That is not the only branch. Gets the number of people in the value chain who are employed, who actually gain value for what they do. This has nothing even to do with banking. He rightly said this could be a lack of professionalism on the part of customer care or the police. Let's deal with that one and let the things go on. This has nothing to do with banking standards in the country. So let's be careful how we stretch this matter.
It is important that we are careful not to generalize that. But again, it's also, we cannot completely dissociate the banking sector. Once some of these isolated cases happen, they are very sensitive and they can trigger certain actions. So here we can call for calm and appeal to those who want to take actions against the bank in entirety to exercise restraint, considering the fact that so far the Midland has taken very responsible steps in ensuring that they do not actually condone what has occurred. They are taking actions to sanction the people.
Yes, five of the people who were there,
who acted in defiance of their corporate, governance policies and customer policies. And I'm expecting that they will do some more rigorous PR on this. Some damage has been caused to their reputation, of course, their image, and they will have to do a lot more PR work to save that. But I would want to call for calm that this shouldn't occasion a total boycott of Midland. This shouldn't occasion, an erasure of all the good contributions and the professional acts that Midland Savings and Loans, or Midland, the financial institution, over the years and across various branches in the country have offered.
Right. So thank you very much.